So now after I've sanded and deglossed the fronts and backs of all of my cabinets and drawer fronts, I'm about to prime. Priming is very important because it'll allow your paint to adhere even better to your cabinets. I actually have two brushes. The brush that I'm actually going to do the painting with, and this brush is just a wide brush that I use to kind of sweep off any debris or lint. I have two cans, old paint cans, that I'm going to paint the cabinet doors on top of so that the edges are lifted up and I can see all the way around. I'm going to show you an example of the back door and the front door really quickly. Now with the primer, you don't have to put a lot of paint on it, but you do want to go in the direction of the grain. Doesn't have to be perfect. Just get it on there because you'll make up the difference once you actually paint the door. Want to make sure that you are getting into all of the nooks and crannies though. You don't want to miss any of that. This whole area is kind of tricky. And remember, I put a number on the inside of where the hinge is, so I don't want to paint in there and lose my number. But you do want to get around that. It's looking pretty good. And then you want to catch your edges. Best thing about having it on top of a paint can, you can kind of spin it around. One more side. Just want to make sure you don't have any runs or drips, and it is smooth as possible. Same thing for the front side. You want to go ahead, and I like to kind of get into these grooves really well with your primer. Make sure that you don't see any of the cabinet. Same type of deal. You can use your can to spin your cabinet around to see if it's any spots that you've missed. I'm gonna let the primer dry overnight to make sure that it's completely dry, and then tomorrow we'll paint. If you can pull off some tape and actually wrap it around your nap roller. Just kind of twirl it around. Get it on there like that. This will help eliminate some of those pieces of lint fur that you get. I've already brushed off any excess with my clean big brush. Make sure nothing is loose. And I'm just gonna go in the center really fast. I mean, let me tell you, there's nothing really pretty about it. Just want to get it covered. Any type of excess, just make sure that you clean it up. You don't want to have any pools of primer or paint. Now I'm going to get my roller and just roll it on out. So I really don't want my finish to have any brush marks in it. Do the same thing to the sides. A little piece of something. Like I said, go with the direction of the wood. My numbers are inside of the holes where the hardware or the anchors go. So you don't want to cover those up, but you do want to make sure that you got great coverage for your primer. Same thing with the sides. You can hit it with the brush. My sides are really thin, so I can do these with the brush. But since I have it on my paint can, it allows me to spin it around to get the edges, to make sure I'm getting the edges all the way through. And if you get too much paint on top, once you do your edges, just take your brush, roll it back down, and you're done. I'll let this dry overnight, flip it over, do the other side, and then after that, we'll actually do the paint. This is day number 4 of my mini kitchen makeover, and this phase of course is the cabinet painting. So I'm just gonna paint really quick so you can see where I am in the process. So all of the doors are off, all the faces have been primed. The kitchen looks really crazy without the doors on it. I mean, stuff is everywhere. It's like a wreck in here, but it's always the storm before the calm. And I just want you all to see that I even painted the little lip that's going into the cabinet I thought it would look kind of funny if the doors were open and that piece was not painted. So I did it on all of them. And there are all the door fronts laying around in the family room. It got kind of cold outside, so I brought everything inside. So today is painting. I don't know if you can see that. I can see just a little of the wood coming back through from the primer after I primed the first coat. I decided to go ahead and prime 2 coats just to make sure that my wood is covered good. I didn't want to have to paint twice. I wanted to be able to just do 1 coat of paint, so I'm doing 2 coats of primer. And this is actually one of the drawer fronts, and where I feel that hole at, it's almost unnoticeable, so that's pretty good. But doing a 2nd coat of primer is up to you. I just wanted to make sure that I would be able to just paint 1 time and 1 time only. So I've actually primed my cabinets twice. I just wanted to make sure that the paint has a good surface to adhere to. But sometimes when you paint things, the wood underneath can raise up and you can feel the roughness. So with a fine grade sanding block, I'm just gonna knock that little roughness down, and I mean immediately I can see how much smoother it is. You don't want to paint your cabinets and still have that rough surface, so I'm going ahead and knocking that roughness down off of the top of the cabinets. And when I'm done, after I'm done sanding, I'll take my dry bristle brush and just knock any dust off that I may have created after sanding. Now that I've sanded my surfaces of my cabinets to make sure that they're very smooth before I paint them, I did run into a problem. But there is a gap right here in my cabinet, and even though I primed it, you can still see it pretty well. So I want to take care of that before I actually paint. So I just have some acrylic latex caulk. The silicone is paintable, and I'm just going to run a bead down the side of my cabinet to fill in that gap. And I'm just going to kind of smooth it in with my finger. So of course when I get ready to paint the cabinet, it's just really nice and clean. You don't have those gaps. So once you get the bead of caulk in and it's nice and smooth, you want to take a damp rag and just kind of wipe up the excess, because you don't want that excess to show up in the finished product. And voila, the gap is gone. So I've run into a problem. Even after priming my cabinets 2 times, I still have a problem with bleed through on a few of my cabinets. So what I'm going to do is actually put a 3rd coat of primer on, because I do not want that to come through on my finished paint. Okay, so now the doors have been painted on the back, and now I'm doing all of the fronts. Like I said, in the same manner that I applied the primer, you want to do the paint as well. I've already sanded down any type of rough surface that I could feel. Everything is very smooth, and I always start with the edges first, because if it's any excess on your edges, you can just go ahead and roll it off with the roller. But you do want to pay very close attention to your edges to make sure that you don't have any runs or overlaps. Or next, I want to go in here, and I usually start off with a good amount of paint to get in all of the grooves very well. But it's enough for coverage, but not enough to pull up in the corners. Just my roll. And I have a smaller brush that I kind of like to go in and kind of sweep the corners, just to make sure that I don't have any excess of paint left over, and to get any little spots that I may have missed. And just another quick tip, sometimes when you're rolling out the paint, you should always roll in the direction of the grain. But if you're finding that the paint is not getting in all of the little ridges in your wood, go ahead and roll against the grain this direction to work the paint in, and then turn back around and then roll it back in the direction of the wood grain. That's to ensure that the paint is in every nook and cranny on your door. Today I let them dry overnight to get completely dry. They're dry to the touch. Paint usually takes a few days to actually cure. That means that it's drying from the inside out. So today I'm gonna go ahead and hang them up. I'm going to show you how to hang the cabinets up. And this is our first cabinet, number 1. I left the hardware inside of the cabinet. You wanna go ahead and put your hinges on your cabinet doors first. Voila, the first door is up. They look great. Even though, you know, the doors are dry to the touch, I'm still going to actually leave the doors cracked. This will allow for a little more time for the cabinets to cure, and so that they won't stick. I know some people say when you paint cabinets they tend to stick. It's just because you didn't allow them to dry. Okay, now that I got all of my cabinets painted, I've come across a couple of issues. One, right here on the corner, I had a little glob of paint that I missed that has dried, and I'll show you how to take care of that. But when you paint everything white, you tend to see any cracks or crevices where your paint didn't get into. So I'm actually just taking my caulk gun, I'm taking painter's caulk, and I'm just kind of going in and trying to do this and filling up that gap. Take my finger, smooth it out so it looks like it's seamless. I'll sand this area out and go back over with paint to make that pretty smooth. Also, since I'm doing under cabinet lights, my lights are white, I decided to go ahead and paint underneath. Well, the issue came up the same way. As I painted, this is on the other side, you see all of those openings and gaps underneath. And since I'm gonna have the lights, I think it'll make it even more noticeable. So in the same token, I'm just going to get my caulk gun and try to run a bead of caulk. Get my finger, smooth it out. Got a little rag to kind of wipe it up. So far I've only primed underneath, I have not painted, but it just makes it look so much better when you don't have those holes or gaps in your paint. Sometimes painted cabinets tend to stick. Usually it's because we haven't allowed the cabinets to cure long enough so that they'll be dry fully. But just to ensure that your cabinets don't stick, I have these little clear rubber bumpers, and I'm gonna apply these to the top and bottoms of the cabinets. And most cabinets have a low spot and a high spot. I'm going to apply it to the highest spot. And that way, since the cabinets are white, you want to use the clear. And that'll help keep your cabinets from sticking.